nice just to get things open and moving. We're going to start in downward facing dog. So finding your way into an inverted V shape and taking a few moments here to kind of find your way into the posture, maybe bending a knee and then the other, so sort of pedaling your feet, walking your dog, and a little bit of space in the shoulders, so maybe a sort of coming forward and back. Spread your fingers wide, push them down, and then find the posture. So try not to sink into the shoulders, but find a little bit of structure through the shoulder girdle. You can have a softness in the knees if that works for you, and in and up with the belly, like you're trying to hold all your guts in where they go to their space. And then bring the feet a little bit closer together, the toes a little bit closer together. Raise your right leg back behind you. You can take a few circles with the ankle, bending the knee. And if it would feel good for you, bend your knee and peel open. So get a nice long line in that right side. Take a breath, lift it up nice and high. Bring that foot back down. And do that on the other side, left leg. You can reach behind you, maybe a few circles. The ankle, both arms are strong, working together. Bending the knee, and if it would feel good, peel open, nice three-legged dog. You can let that right heel be heavy. Lift the left knee nice and high, and bring the foot back down. Soften the knees, look forward. Bring your right foot up to your right hand. Left knee comes down. Find some space for the spine, so an elongation of the spine, the low belly still pulling in and up. And a little bit of movement here into the hips, so perhaps a sort of back and forth or maybe a side to side. Sometimes we need to kind of wiggle into the space of the posture as opposed to holding. Okay. Bring this into a gentle twist. Left hand can stay down, right hand can come to the thigh as the navel, the abdomen starts to twist towards the right. If there's space for you, the arm might reach up or even towards the back of the mat. Push into the front foot. Take one more breath. And then back through center. Let's take a moment and straighten that front leg. So a Ardha Hanumanasana. You can have your hands maybe on either side of that leg. Pull the toes up towards you, waking up the back of that leg, the hamstrings. Find a long spine. Just take one more breath. And then come on back to the lunge, and we'll meet back in downward facing dog. Take a breath in, and then out. On the other side, look forward. Left foot steps up to the top of the mat, and then the right knee can come down. And again, finding your way. So anytime you are, in a yoga class or listening to a yoga class, know that you're just being guided, and it's really up to you to find your own way, find what feels okay in your body, and really take the time to explore. So we're not going so far that, we can't breathe, but we can be aware of sensation. Okay, allow the hips to settle where it feels okay for you, and then setting up for the twist if that's where you're going. Right hand down, sort of pushing into it, and then turning towards the left. Just curious about this space. So even, when we first are getting started in our practice, it's a little bit of curiosity, right? We're not deciding where to go. We're just kind of checking it out. Let's take one more breath. And then back through center, and again, straighten the front leg. Little half split variation, and this can be really quite gentle because, we're just starting to move the body. Coming back, planting the hands, and again, downward facing dog. Take a big breath in, and then out. And look forward and walk or step your feet up to your hands and find your way into a halfway lift, and then fold forward. Soften the knees, reaching all the way up overhead, and then hands come down into heart center. Take a few sun salutations, continuing to warm up the body. Inhale to reach up. And then exhale, fold forward, long spine, long breath. Take your halfway lift again, shoulders back, belly in. Exhale to plant your hands and come back to a plank pose. So maybe this first one here, you bring your knees to the earth, really having that relationship with gravity. Shoulders on the back, breath in. Exhale, let's lower all the way down, elbows point back. Lift to the tops of the feet, baby cobra, 1 of 3. Exhale, lower down. 2 more, use your legs. Press the tops of the feet. Inhale to the top of your pose. Exhale, lower down. 1 more time. Use your whole breath to come up so you're not in a rush. And your whole breath out to go down. Tuck your toes, plank pose with or without the knees. And then downward facing dog. The hips go high. Take a big breath in. And a breath out. Again, fill up. Empty. Take 1 more breath here. Inhale. As you exhale, look forward and then bring your feet up to meet your hands. Halfway lift as you breathe in, and then exhale, fold forward as you breathe out. Inhale to come all the way up, and then hands back to heart center. Inhale, extend, reach through the sides, body overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale to your halfway lift, that's length, it's a prep. And then exhale, high plank. From your toes or your knees, take a breath in. Exhale, lower halfway or all the way down. Inhale to your cobra or upward facing dog, use the legs. Exhale, back, downward facing dog. Let your head be heavy here. Maybe a little yes and no movements. Push into your hands, into your arms, and lift up the peak of your hips really high. 1 more breath in. Exhale it out. Look forward, go forward. Inhale to your halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale to reach up. This time, sit back, chair pose. Draw your seat towards the back edge of your mat. Arms can stay up. They can come together and they might be in heart center or on your hips. So you're just listening to what works for you. Take 1 more breath in and then exhale to fold forward, release. Take your halfway lift and then exhale, plant your hands, lower right down, halfway or all the way, chaturanga. Inhale, up dog or cobra. Exhale, back, downward facing dog. Step your right foot forward, warrior 1, so the back heel plants on an angle. Reach the arms up and stay here. Think about squaring your torso to the front of the mat. Maybe bring your hands onto your hips and really see if you can kind of square the hips. Sometimes that right hip has a tendency to pop out. We want to have it underneath the body to support the torso. Maybe bringing a little more depth into that front leg and a little more strength into that back leg. Let's take 1 more breath. You might reach up and then exhale, plant your hands, low plank, or you can always go right back into your down dog. Inhale fully and then exhale back. Take 1 breath in. Empty. Left side, warrior 1, step through, ground down through the feet and reach up. And if that works for you to really feel the pose, it's almost like a self-assist when we can have that physical feedback of what the body's doing. Strengthen the back leg. So the whole pose comes from the feet, right? If we don't have the stability of the feet, of the legs, of the core being strong, the posture is really hard to maintain, to sustain. So you can stay here, maybe reach your arms up. Maybe you look up. Let's take 1 more breath. And then exhale to lower down or into your downward facing dog. Take a full breath in. If you're lifting, it's heart high. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Bring your knees to the earth. Child's pose or puppy pose. Puppy pose has the hips up high, arms can come forward and out, and then slink your chest down towards the floor, maybe dropping your head. Take a few Long, deep breaths here. So whether you're in your puppy pose or your child's pose, connect with your breath. Make it purposeful. And coming up to tabletops, we're going to meet on the hands and knees. Tuck your toes here. We're going to inhale to cow pose. So drop the navel down and curl up either end. And then exhale, cat pose. Chin to chest, mid-spine goes high. Again, inhale, cow pose. And then exhale, cat pose. Maybe increasing the length. Arms might walk forward, hands might walk forward a little bit. This time coming into cow pose, and from our cow pose, down dog. So we're going to look up, and then we're going to start to pull the hips up and back, still looking forward, lengthening the spine, and then the head drops down. So the arms are strong and long, the spine is strong and long, the legs. Take a breath in and a breath out. Look forward, walk, step, hop, top of the mat, halfway lift, and fold. Chair pose, drop your seat, lift up for 3 breaths. Soften the shoulders for 2. Maybe your seat goes back a little more. Last breath, toes might lift, and then exhale, fold forward, release. Take a halfway lift, just fold. Reach all the way up overhead. And then hands to heart center. Take a breath in and a breath out. Chair pose, drop your seat, just 1 breath here. And then exhale, fold forward. Halfway lift, think length and strength. And then plant your hands lower down, chaturanga or no plank. Inhale, up dog or cobra, armpits back. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Step your right foot through warrior 1, just 1 breath this time to the top, not in a hurry. And then exhale to lower down. So we're flowing with breath. Inhale to lift, becomes like meditation in motion. Exhale back. Second side, left foot goes through. Inhale, warrior 1. Exhale, lower down. Inhale to lift. Exhale to go back. Take 1 breath in. Empty. Raise your right leg back behind you again. Push it back so nice and strong. And then step up and through, crescent lunge. So feet are wide enough apart for your stance, long spine. Use your core and come on up. Again, loving the hands on the hips here to start to set up this posture. Torso is square to the front. Hips are square to one another. So sometimes, if we don't have that feedback of a mirror to physically feel what's happening, you can stay here or elongate the arms up. Take a breath in and a breath out. We're going to take this crescent lunge into a warrior 2. Hands come into heart center, drop your back heel. Now open up to the long side of your mat. So now the torso turns. You want about heel to arch alignment, deep bend in that front knee. Take a breath. Soften the shoulders. And 1 more here, back leg is strong. Exalt your warrior 1, breath reach up and back. And then exhale, hands to the mat. High to low plank or downward facing dog. Inhale, up and through, lift and lengthen. Exhale, go back. Take 1 breath in and out. Left leg reaches back behind you on purpose. Step it up softly, top of the mat. Crescent lunge, organize the feet, pull the core in, and come on up. Really helpful to use your gaze again, finding that space with the hips if that works for you. If you feel that your ribs are sort of bowing forward or there's sort of a concave shape in the back, try softening that back knee and pulling the hip upright, right? The hip creases want to point up. Lengthen and lift. and maybe adding the arms. One more breath. And then hands through heart center, warrior two, swivel open. Maybe organizing the feet, finding the space that works for you, and then be here. One more breath. Breathe fingertip to fingertip. That's how tall you are. Inhale, reach up and back. So a nice big opening in the side body. And then exhale, hands to the floor, your choice. Flow or down dog. Inhale, strong arms, breath, legs, and downward facing dog. Take a big breath in. And a big breath out. And one more breath. Empty, look forward, walk, step, hop, top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. And reach all the way up overhead. And then hands to heart. Take a breath here. Mountain pose, Tadasana. Tree pose, Vrikshasana. So we're gonna start by grounding through the left side, bending the right leg. And when you bend your leg, your right leg, notice that the left hip doesn't pop out, but stays rather upright. So we're gonna turn the knee out. You can keep your toes on the floor. Toes might lift or come all the way up. So toes pointing down, press the leg and the foot together. Hands can come in towards the heart. So see if you can open that knee out so you feel it in that glute. You can keep your hands at heart center, or maybe they reach up. And maybe your gaze goes up as well. If you want to challenge yourself a little bit, drishti, gaze, definitely part of every posture, but especially balancing. Lift, reach, breathe. One more. And then bring your hands and your knee back through center. Airplane pose. So we're going to take that leg, reach it back, and tilt forward on the left side. So again, try to have your hips square. There's action in that back leg, like the inner thigh is reaching up and your heart space is reaching forward. You can keep your hands at heart center or airplane arms, reach back. One more breath, and then come on back up to stand. Take a breath in and a breath out. Second side, left leg bends. Again, try not to pop that hip out, but stay upright. It doesn't have to be the same as the first side. So we always use the example of, trees in nature, and their branches aren't like exactly symmetrical. So, your legs don't have to do the same thing on each side. Your arms don't have to do the same thing. Sometimes it's nice for an opening. You can reach down or clasp the hands behind you for a little more heart opener. Find integrity and find what works for you. And take a few breaths here. Trees have to move a little bit. They need to absorb the wind and the weather. So the movement in the ankles, building muscle, it's balancing for you. Take another breath. And then slowly back through center, knee, maybe hands. Airplane pose, Dekasana, reaching back. See if you can get long. There's a line from the back heel to the top of your head, and it's straight, strong. Use the full height of that standing leg, your core. Take another breath, and then step back, feet together. Take a breath in, and a breath out. And take a little flow and make our way down onto the floor. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, fold. Halfway to lift and lengthen. Plant your hands high to low or no plank. Inhale, up dog or cobra. Downward facing dog. One breath in and out. And bring your knees to the earth. Inhale, cow pose, so belly down, hips and heart high. And then exhale, cat pose. One more time, cow pose, get long and then curl. And then exhale, cat pose. Bring your head with you. Coming back to tabletop, so nice and long through both ends, like from the top of your head to your tailbone. And extend your right leg back behind you. So you can keep your toes onto the floor. We're going to move that right leg, or excuse me, the left leg out of the way. So we're going to set up for a nice modified side plank. Right heel comes down and then peel open. So lifting, think about stacking the shoulders, the hips, and the head. So we don't want the head kind of down or cranking in some way. Can you keep it neutral in line with your spine? Okay, send the bottom hip forward. If you want to increase the space between the hand and the foot, arm might come overhead, and if it's there, that back foot might float. If you're into binding, you can take a little sort of sugar cane or Chapasana bind here like you would in half moon. Okay, take one more breath. And then release. We're going to bring the foot down, hand down, knee down. Inhale to cow pose, and then exhale, cat pose. I'm going to do that on the other side. Left leg lengthens back. Right foot comes out like a little kickstand for support, right hand down. Turn to the inside edge of that left foot, and in doing that, push the right hip forward and get nice and long. Okay, so only going so far that you can breathe. Maybe you lengthen the top line of the body. Maybe the foot floats. Maybe you bind if that's there for you today. Send the knee up and high. Take one more breath here. And then a gentle release coming out of the pose is still part of it, knee down. If it feels good on your spine, inhale to cow pose. And then exhale to cat pose. Bring your knees together, and if it works for you, feet out, sitting back for hero pose. Only if you're sitting on the floor this works. You can sit on a block, a book, or you can sit on your heels. Okay, if it doesn't work for your knees, you can come right down onto your back and do a bridge pose where you lift the heels up. So here, our hero pose. Some people even like to move the calves out of the way, creating a little bit more space. If it works for you, hands behind. We want to lengthen the front body, so tucking the hips, kind of sending the tailbone to the back of the knees. Stay here if this works for you. Open the shoulders. Some people can walk the hands back or maybe come down onto the elbows. Keep lengthening the front body. If it works for you, coming all the way down onto your back, you might have a support underneath of you. And the action is now that the ribs are heading down towards the floor. So they're going to want to flare open, and we're trying to really sort of smoosh down with gravity, kind of pancake the body. So tucking the tailbone towards the back of the knees. Knees are drawing in towards one another, which I find a lot better for the back. And if you have lots of space, some people like to send the arms overhead. Okay, check with your breathing. And we'll take maybe 2 more breaths here. And then when we come up, try not to strain on the neck or the face. Sometimes coming out to the elbows helps, just sort of a reverse of what we were doing. Find your long spine, and then extending the legs, maybe back behind you if that would feel good. Feeling the sensation of the blood running through the back of the legs. And we'll come into a seated position, finishing with a few little hip openers. So coming onto your seat, and we'll start with a fire log pose, so a figure 4 or double pigeon. And take your left leg on the bottom, so the shin is about parallel to the top. If you had a mat, it would be sort of square with that. And then the right leg on top. If you have props to support you, you might have something underneath of your knee. Just check out that both hips are on the floor. So if one hip is kind of popping up, just make some space. Maybe the bottom leg moves out for that. Anchoring down through both hips. Okay, find a tall spine again. Upright might be what works for you. If there's space, this posture comes forward. So you can maybe use your hands to support you walking forward, just to your space, whatever is available. Again, if you have props, you might have something under your arms or your forehead. Sometimes the action of almost sticking your bum back and reaching the heart forward. So a long spine instead of a rounding. We're targeting the hip, if that's not already really obvious. So double hip opener, but probably a lot more for the right side. Flexing the feet's a great way to support the knees. And see, just another breath or two here. And then come on back up. Release the legs. So before the other side, might feel nice to lengthen, or sometimes this windshield wiper action feels good because it gets right up into the hips. Okay, and then when you're ready, we'll do the other side. So I think that will be right shin on the bottom. Yes, that was exciting when I get the right side. And then of the posture, not of my body. And then finding what works. Again, it might look or feel totally different on this side. That's, most of our bodies are not exactly symmetrical. Sit up nice and tall. So from the base of the hips is where we grow. We don't need to round. We want to lengthen, open up that channel for breath. So finding what works for you here in this space on this side. So it's like a whole new pose. Finding more awareness of breath. A really nice quote, I guess, that I heard from one of my teachers is, let your breath be louder than your thoughts. And one more. And then come on back up. Again, release. You can lengthen, you can bend. We'll finish with a forward fold. So legs extend forward. You want to find that sort of hinging of the hips. So if the spine is rounding, see if you can sit up nice and tall, kind of scooching forward. So there's that, again, upright action with the hips. You can maybe feel the hip bones, how you can sort of negotiate for them to be up. And then the spine long. Stay here if that works for you. Support with arms beside Dandasana, which is staff pose, or Paschimottanasana, which is forward fold, seated forward fold. Bringing, as if you could bring your navel to your knees and your head to your toes. Some people like to add the arms. The arms are for support. So it's not reaching to the toes, but if you have that, to lengthen the spine, right? If there's lots of space, the elbows start to bend out. We'll take 2 to 3 breaths here. Think long in body, in back body, and in breath. 2 more. Last breath. Press the back of your legs to the floor and then come on back up. So bending the knees, softening. And then if it works for you, coming to lay down in a Shavasana or in a seated position for a few moments. So it's really, really important to finish our practice in a space of stillness, kind of honoring what you've done. So try not to skip out in a Shavasana. I won't be staying with you for that part, but please take a few moments for yourself. And thank you for sharing in this practice. Namaste.